Okay, before we actually get into the creation or the definition of what a shield is just yet, I want to go ahead and define the different types of defenses that are used in different styles and systems. Things like blocking, covering, and shielding. Those are three different types of defenses that we want to make the distinction right up front on what they are and what they are not. Even though they have some similarities, they are completely different and should be used differently in different scenarios and different ranges and different opponents in here that you're facing. So the most common form of defense is known as blocking. And blocking basically is defined as intercepting, any technique that comes, out in this sphere influence like this. You notice that he's literally stopping techniques, out here like this. He's not actually trying to take them so much per se close to his body. Okay, so that's one way you can actually block techniques is to intercept every single move in here like this. Now the thing that makes this work in here is that he has to be able to see every motion I do. And also he has to be able to control his distance for this. So if he's flinching and closing his eyes, or if I'm right on top of him in here, he's going to have a hard time really blocking in here. And you notice as I start to throw the punches faster, how he has to get tighter in here like this, and he's more susceptible to getting hit in a different area of his body, a different gait in here. So blocking is a skill set that you need to learn and really perfect in MMA, but it is a more complex skill because it requires a lot of timing. Okay, so that's one way you can actually stop techniques, and blocking is probably the least amount of defense used in MMA specifically. The other way that you can stop techniques is what's called covering. Now, covering is kind of what they do in boxing, where they bring the limbs up in here like this, and they kind of try to hide behind the gloves and use the arms to protect the elbows. And the advantage of doing that is it actually allows me to protect a wide variety of a bigger area of my body in here. So if I just put my arms and cover my general vital targets, right? My vision, my throat, my solar plexus in here, and he just kind of throws any kind of technique in here like this. I can kind of literally just hide behind my limbs in here, but see, he's kind of picking his shots in here like this, and I'm just literally holding my arms up in here. All right, so I can actually protect myself in here and take the punches on the arms, as opposed to as he's throwing the punches and I try to block in here, like this. I have to intercept every single one of those things. The covering, I don't have to do that. I can just let him smash into me in here and just kind of hope for the best in here like this. The big problem and a no-no with doing this kind of defense is it's very passive. In other words, I'm just letting him beat on me, and I'm not doing anything to put the threat back on him. So what's happening is that I'm literally disconnected from what's happening. I react to his initial attack in here, but as he's kind of throwing swarms of techniques, I'm literally just holding my arms up in here and just hoping he doesn't hit me. So if he starts to really pick the openings on me in here, right? Look where I'm open in here like this. I can literally, right, get clocked in here. I'm open down here, right? And so it's not directly connected. It's not reactive. It's not connected to anything that he's doing. My perception is completely lost. Okay? And more importantly, it may be okay for punches, okay, like in boxing, and then I can grab the guy and tie him up. But what happens as he's punching, and then he decides to come in and shoot down low and tackle me? So he's throwing these punches in here, and I'm just holding my arms up in here, and he just comes in and dives in on me like this. It doesn't do anything to protect my lower gate as far as tackles and grabs and charging attacks. So the covering is probably like the least effective out of any kind of blocking or absorbing techniques or stopping techniques. Okay, so that's something that we don't want to drill in. You see, there's a lot of fighters who do that, and what's happening is the reason why they're doing that is because they don't have any specific defense that they really honed into their nervous system where they can really use, in really serious situations. They're literally just at that time, by the time the person's covering up in here and I'm just taking a pounding, most times in fighting it's over. Usually the fight gets stopped because they don't do anything to counter back or get out of there. And if they do anything to try to escape, it's very erratic. So like, you'll see that he's throwing his punches out here. The guy's just kind of going like this, and, here he's swinging here, doing stuff like this, and he's completely dysfunctional. He's literally lost his perception at that point. Okay, so that is definitely not what we call shielding or blocking, all right? Now, what defines a shield is looks like a covering maneuver, but a shield concept is more about using it very methodically in order to either absorb, stop, or deflect, or ram and slam into my opponent's defenses. In other words, why I'm putting some kind of blockade in between him and I to buy me a moment to I can either regroup and minimize the damage that I take on a part of my body that's less susceptible to injury, or put myself in a position to counter this guy very hard. Now, when we do this in here, a shield has a lot of variations. What defines it, why it's a shield and why it's not covering per se. So what I can do is in here is literally, if I put myself in my guard stance here, back up just a little bit in here, and he throws a quick technique in here, right, go ahead, throw. I can literally just shut that whole gate off real fast, right? Now, it looks like I'm covering. I brought my limbs up in the same position, but if you look at this closely, I'm really not doing that. The other advantage of doing this with a shield, if he throws a swarm of punches, and he's actually trying to pick the targets he's trying to hit, if I keep my perception going in here, all right, so go ahead and throw some more punches in here. I can literally, make sure that I can hide behind these techniques in here like this. Now, the other thing that can happen with the shield that's so versatile is that if he comes in with punches and decides to tackle me or bear hug me, I can make him run into basically a wall of bone structure. So without smashing into the guy, taking him out in here, if I'm in my stance and he decides to come in up high and charge at me in here, right, I can literally drive a hard ramming shield into this guy's, collarbone or into his face in here like this and drop this guy in a split second. Okay, so it's very versatile under those conditions. If he throws punches at me and then tackles me, my perception is connected to this blockade in here. So he throws punches and tackles me in here. I can drive into a hard shot in here like this and stop him because I'm completely connected to what he's doing. Unlike covering, where again I'm just kind of closing my eyes and just hoping for the best, just holding my limbs in front of my face. A shield actually is reactive in here like this, right? A shield hat is alive and it still actually connects to every little movement he's doing. Okay? So that's a major difference between shielding, blocking, and covering. So a shield can stop a lot of grappling and tackling, and it also can stop a swarm of punches in here. That's really about the only choice you really have when it comes to close range swarming attacks. All right, particularly in MMA when there's a lot of emphasis in grappling in close ranges. When here, like in boxing, they're not grappling in here; they're trying to use angles like this and duck and weave in here. But in MMA, because we're clinched up in here like this and trying to get into these single legs and double legs in here, there needs to be an emphasis in here on a lot of barriers per se to keep a person off me in here like this, right? So if we're in a clinch in here, all right, and I put my limbs into a position in here where he can't bear hug me in here, go ahead and, right, I can actually create a barrier or a shield per se that allows me to keep some space and hit this guy back in here, and get him off me in here like this, as opposed to trying to, do the classical, underhooks in here where we're unified and we're doing this and there's really no effect is in here. So a shield is a barrier that is used very aggressively, and it has to be connected to my opponent's actions and inactions. So if you want to say a shield's definition is to create an obstruction that forms a piece of mass in here that I actually can take a damage on, for a very short time, and allows me to strike back or to counter in here. And that's another thing, the difference between covering and shielding is covering is not really linked, I said before, it's not linked to any kind of striking back. So again, a shield, if he throws a punch in here, right, I can literally hit this guy right back in here, boom, 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 in here like this really fast, as long as my vision, my perception is connected to this person. So that is the difference between a shield as opposed to covering and blocking.